Okay, Jennifer, you're good to go.
Good morning and welcome to the DAC Monthly Webcast. It's August 13th and we welcome all of our DACs and our building assessment coordinators and instructional leaders across the state to our monthly webcast. I'm Jennifer Stafford, the Director in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support, and we are in this position that we have a lot of ever-evolving information. Today with me, we have some special guests with us today, and we've got the most up-to-date information that we can share with you about the current state of assessment and accountability. So in the broadcast with us today is Helen Jones. She's the project manager for our division, as well as Chris Williams, a consultant in our division, who's going to bring us some updated information about the upcoming fall data review. So Helen, if you'll bring the PowerPoint presentation up, we'll begin by looking at the agenda. We've got several agenda topics today that will be of interest, and we have the most up-to-date information we have at this point. We're going to start out talking about the ACT. Now, the governor has made some statements this week and some recommendations to our school districts that are impacting the plans that we had for our ACT administration. So we're going to talk about some updates there. We'll also go into a little bit of the discussion at the Kentucky Board of Education meeting in the beginning of this month in August. We had some time with them to discuss the Senate Bill 158 timeline. We also talked about the assessment blueprints as well as the kindergarten screen waiver. So we want, again, to bring you the most up-to-date information. We'll turn it over to Chris at that point and talk about fall reporting. We're going to have a little bit different process this year than we have in the past because it's a different time frame right now, and the things that we're going through are different, and so our processes are going to be different as well. We have postponed the social studies field test, and we'll talk about our current state of that, as well as Helen will then discuss the back to school trainings. And of course, along the way, we have Pam Powers, another consultant in our division, who is taking your questions. So if you do have questions, please email dacinfo@education.ky.gov. So let's jump into it. The ACT was scheduled for September, and we do have additional dates that we have for you. The August 22nd date as well as the October 6th date are available, and we've made plans for those administration dates. Now, the governor came out this week with a recommendation for our Kentucky schools to delay in-person classes until September 28th. The number of cases in Kentucky are continuing to rise. Yesterday, there was a number of coronavirus cases that was quite large, and concern for the safety of our students, staff, and administrators in the building. So with that recommendation, Kentucky is looking to the Department of Public Health for guidance on how to administer the ACT. Now, we are looking to them for possibly bringing in small groups of students to administer the ACT during that September 22nd date. Now, Interim Commissioner Brown has talked about the fact that there could be small groups of students come into the schools. So we're going to follow the policies around and that are provided by the Department of Public Health for guidance on possibly bringing small groups in during that time frame. So that means that the districts will have the opportunity to bring small groups in following the safety guidelines as outlined by the Department of Public Health. Now, for school districts that are unable to bring students in during that September date, and possibly have the August 6th date in the accommodations window for that administration. We are working with ACT on an additional time frame in mid-March. So we're working currently with ACT on an initial date of October 20th for an administration of the ACT. And then around that October 20th date, we'll also put together some dates for our accommodated students. So again, the opportunities for our students to take the ACT, and it's only those students who are identified as being enrolled last spring during the March 2020 administration as a junior that did not have the opportunity to take the ACT in March. We are providing these possible dates as opportunities for those students to take the state required ACT. Now, we've worked with our district assessment coordinators throughout the summer to identify those students. So the district assessment coordinators have files with student names that are eligible for this fall administration. Now, if there are students on that list that were possibly missed or were not identified during that process and they were enrolled, and you can verify that, you can work with Sheriff Savage on getting those students added to the list for the fall administration. So again, we're working with the Department of Public Health for a possible administration of small groups during that September administration date. Then we have the next opportunity to take the ACT will be the October 6th, and then the date that we're working with ACT on is October 20th to provide an additional opportunity for students to have that additional administration. Now, if our students are unable to take any of these, if the September date doesn't work, the October 6th date doesn't work, nor the October 20th date doesn't work, then those students will be able and be eligible for spring 21 administration of the ACT. So we're going to provide multiple opportunities for our students to have their opportunity to take the ACT. If it doesn't work out this fall for your students, then we always will have the spring. And hopefully at that time we'll have a more normal time frame in administration of the ACT. So Helen, if you would move to the next agenda topic. And I want to say that is the August time frame of the KBE meeting. Now again, we had multiple topics on the board meeting on October 6th. The first one we had was an overview of Senate Bill 158. And if Helen, if you'd move to that. Now, as we've discussed here on the monthly DAC webcast, there are several significant changes that are brought about by this piece of legislation. They include changes to the statewide accountability system. The definition for achievement gap has changed. It's no longer the definition that we used in 2019. State and local graduation requirements have been impacted, as well as school improvement efforts. So all of those pieces were discussed at the Kentucky Board of Education meeting. Helen, if you'll move to the next slide. The Board of Education received a comparison document, and we released this just prior to the Kentucky Board of Education meeting. So in a Monday DAC email, this comparison document that outlines the changes in accountability to the current system, the system that was used in 2019 for identification of students, of schools, was presented to the Kentucky Board of Education. Now, this comparison is a very simple format with a table that had the prior system and changes that could come about by this piece of legislation. So there's a very simple table of comparison from one indicator to the next. For example, we use proficiency and separate academic indicator in the prior system. That will now be termed from the legislation as state assessment results. So at the Board of Education meeting, we presented a high-level overview of the changes that were brought about by this piece of legislation. So they had several questions and had a really good discussion with the Board of Education. And again, it was to give them this high-level overview. Associate Commissioners Rhonda Sims as well as Dr. Kelly Foster were in attendance and part of that discussion, as well as myself and Mickey Ray from the Office of Teaching and Learning, because this legislation crosses multiple offices. It doesn't just impact the Office of Assessment and Accountability as the accountability piece. So we had a really good discussion, and it provided them the foundational information about the changes in those three big areas. Helen, if you'll go to the next slide. So we started out the discussion with the board in August, just providing them that overview, just to get them ready in thinking about what the piece of legislation did. Now, we'll go back in October to specifically discuss with them the accountability system. As we've noted, there are multiple pieces within the accountability system that are impacted by this piece of legislation. So when we go back in October, what we'll do is we'll look to them for guidance and direction on the approach to take in updating the regulation. In the regulation that holds our accountability system is 703 KAR 5:270. So with that discussion at the October board meeting, we'll get their input and some guidance and direction on how they will want to provide changes to that regulation. At that October meeting, we will ask very specific questions. One question is about, as an example, is about the goals in the system, because per our Every Student Succeeds Act, there must be goals for all schools as well as student demographic groups. The previous Board of Education made a determination of how to create those goals. This Board of Education may have a different approach to those goals, and they may want to change how that calculation of those goals will be. So we want to provide them the opportunity to influence the regulation prior to drafting the regulation. So from October, then we'll take their direction and guidance, and we'll draft a first draft of that accountability regulation. We'll return to the board in December and have a first reading. Now, along the way, there will be many opportunities for our district assessment coordinators, building assessment coordinators, and instructional as well as administrators, leaders in our schools and districts to have input on this regulation. After that first reading, any changes that may come about from the discussion of the first read will be brought back to the Board of Education in February. At that point, we'll discuss the regulation and any type of changes that they may want to make from the first read. We'll move then from the second read into the public comment period. Again, along the way, there'll be multiple opportunities for you to provide input and feedback on the regulation. But then we'll move into a very formal public comment period that will last for 60 days, and that'll be in March and April of next year. The department will consider each and every comment made during that 60-day period and respond to that. At that point, the response to each of those comments made during that very public comment phase is returned to the Kentucky Board of Education in what's called a statement of consideration. And a statement of consideration is a document that outlines the regulation and the comments and the response that the Kentucky Board of Education or the Kentucky Department of Education has to that comment, whether we support the comment or the change or not. And then the board then takes that statement and considers the comment and the department's reaction, so that the board would then have both the public comment and the department's response to what that comment is to take into consideration for changing that regulation. So that statement of consideration will be discussed at the June board meeting, and then we'll move forward with any changes from the Board of Education and possibly that came from the public comment period, and then we'll move into the legislative committees in the summer of next year. So hopefully by this time next year, we'll have a finalized accountability regulation in place. Now, along that process that we're discussing, we'll also have to update the ESSA state plan. So there'll be changes to the ESSA state plan based on the changes from the Senate Bill 158 statute. Helen, I think you're ready to move on to the next topic. At the board meeting, we also had on the consent agenda the process of alignment of assessments to the standards. So we've been through this process, and we've discussed here on the DAC Webcast many times that there were advisory panels meeting and review committees meeting. And last time we discussed the SAPRC, which is the Standards and Assessment Process Review Committee. So along the way, we have been following the guidance of Senate Bill 1 of 2017 that outlined this very formal process of aligning our assessments to the standards. The SAPRC was tasked to review the department's process of aligning those assessment blueprints to the standards. That meeting happened on July 8th and resulted in that committee finding the process that we used for that alignment to be sufficient. They recommended to the Board of Education that the blueprints in reading, writing, math, and social studies to be finalized. So at their board meeting, they did approve that process, and the blueprints have then become final. Those blueprints were shared in a Monday email and posted on our website. So those are out there. They are ready to be used now for both instructional and curricular decisions. Helen, the next slide. The last topic we had with the Kentucky Board of Education was our kindergarten screen. Now, we've discussed, again, the need for the expansion of the time frame for the administration of the kindergarten screen. With the safety protocols that need to take place in masking, for social distancing, for cleaning manipulatives between administration of the students, there's going to be a need to expand that time frame. In addition, with the recommendation from the governor to delay in-person instruction until September, students may not be coming back until then. So we needed this time frame of reporting and administration of the case screen to be waived. We currently have many districts that are screening our students. So there are districts now that are bringing in students individually. Maybe they're doing registration. Maybe they're bringing them in to pick up their Chromebooks or iPads for remote learning. But there are many districts who are currently administering the case screen. For those who are unable to bring those students back, then the waiver was needed to expand that time frame for the administration of the case screen. So we want to allow the maximum flexibility for our schools to screen our students. Now, this waiver was not for wholesale, right now, not to administer the assessments. The waiver is for the expansion of those the time windows. So we plan to leave open the OMS, the Operation Management System, the online management system provided by Curriculum Associates, until possibly sometime in 2021. So we're leaving this open. We're being very flexible and allowing schools to administer the assessment or the screen when the students come into the building, and to be able to do that safely. If that's in October, if it's in November, if it's in December, maybe even January of next year, we do feel like that it is important for students to have that, to be screened, and for teachers to have that information from the screening process, because that can help our teachers with instructional decisions for each individual student. So this process, this waiver, also includes the authority for our commissioner to grant whole schools the exemption from screening. That exemption process will be determined more toward the 2021, or excuse me, the 21 calendar year, for schools that may not be able to return to in-person sessions whatsoever, maybe possibly this whole school year. So we're working through, again, these time frames for this case screen to be administered, if it can, to provide those instructional information to our students. Helen, would you move to the next slide, please? At this point, I'm going to look to Chris Williams about fall reporting. We have this situation that we are in the process of data review right now. She's going to talk about that and the process and the steps moving forward, and how those are different than we've had in the past. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hey, I'm going to be talking to you about fall reporting, and we are already started fall reporting with our data review process in SDRR, and you were able to, it opened up on August the 7th, and it will remain open through the 21st for you to be able to make any demographic changes to your students, file any non-participations, and just, review everything about the data for both access and alternate access for students, as well as for cohort. So just want you to know that this is, we do know that with some schools that are reopening, that this is going to be a short and focused review of the information. So we want this process to just go smoothly for you. And then this should be limited effort on your part to do this, because we've already had several roster phases to help you along the way with the access and the alternate access, because rosters were open back in January through March. For you to make any changes to rosters. So this gives you one last opportunity to make any demographic changes that you need to make to your students. We want you to be able to do that during this time before, you know, it is released publicly in the school report card. Next, Helen. We also had, you know, several looks also with our cohort data as well. And so we want you to make sure that we do want all of our districts to understand the process that we have for this is, you know, just like I said, to get the rosters right. We had that opened back in January, March for our access and our alternate access. Now we're in the second part of our review, which is our data review and cleanup of this process. And then that's where you're going to be able to identify your 100-day entity students and request any non-participations and make any changes you want. And then that will lead to our accurate reporting in the school report card. Helen? Now, let's talk about these timelines. These timelines, you know, are tentative going through. You'll see that we, you know, have to adjust things as we go along, because this is a, like Jennifer said, it is a different type of review. We've had the data review process in SDRR, but our quality control day is going to be a little bit different. So before we get into that quality control, let's just review a little bit about our data review, just a little bit more about our timelines for that. Like I said, it opened on August the 7th through the 21st. You're able to go in and make any changes, like we said, to your student level data. You also want to make sure that those changes that you made in SDRR also we will be going back into Infinite Campus after this process and be reviewing all of that information as well, just to double check with the changes that you've made in SDRR. And then it will close on August the 21st at 12 noon for any new tickets that you want to submit for your individual student changes. Then once that process is over, that August the 12th, then you'll probably, if you want to make sure that before that 12 noon deadline that you have reviewed any of your tickets and have make sure that those are completed. And if you have not, we will be sending an email from our data side after that 12 noon deadline, just to, for you to resolve any of those tickets that you still have outstanding. And then we will move in once that closes on the 21st at 12 noon. Then we will move into our next phase. So we'll take all of the information, the individual changes that you've made, and we will apply that to what we call our quality control day. We used to have a day to be able to do that. Now it's going to be a window that we will have to review that. Because like I said, it's, you know, we know you've got lots of things to be doing with opening of schools and things like that. So we want to give you a little bit more time. Our quality control review will be, our QC review will be August the 31st through September 8th. And what you're going to see is you're going to, just like you did for data review, you'll go into the secure web application, and you'll see spreadsheets that you'll be able to download to look to help with your work. We will also be submitting, be looking for big systemic issues during this time for our quality QC review. And so we want to make sure that you are looking when we took all the changes from data review and reflect that during this QC day, that those changes are in there, and that you are going to be looking for big systemic issues. Now, you won't be able to make individual changes during QC review. Those are just for big systemic issues. And you're probably saying, well, Chris, how am I going to, if I find a big issue in my, when looking through my data, how do I do that? You're going to submit that information on a Google form, and we will have more information that will be coming out in Monday DAC email, just to kind of let you know about this process. And then also we will have specifics with the links to the Google Forms and all of your information that you're going to need, the file names and what they'll be named closer to that August 31st. And we will release a special DAC email with all the information with the specifics of what you're going to do on that day. Now, it won't be like what we had before, where we'd have a checklist to be able to go through, but we will have steps for you to be able to do this, as well as a Google form to be able to go into this process and be able to submit any big systemic issues that you may be finding in your data during this time. And then we will go through the next part of our process, and that's to be determined with the media release of it, and then also with the public release. Those dates will be determined at a later date, and we will be sharing that information as we get closer to those releases. So I hope this helps you with this, and I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, who's going to talk about the social studies. Jennifer?
Thank you, Chris. And again, we realize in the Office of Assessment and Accountability how stressful it is in the districts right now, and the incredible situation that each of you all are facing, because many of you are have more responsibilities other than assessment and accountability, and we understand that. Our purpose here is to provide opportunities for you to review the data before it goes public to ensure that accuracy. Many states don't do that. Many states receive the information from the assessment vendor and then put it right out into their school report card. Kentucky, we value accuracy in reporting and how it reflects the school and district as well as the state. So we value the accuracy in our data reporting, and we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to review the data that will ultimately be reflected upon your school and district. So we are taking these additional steps and expanding that window to provide that opportunity for you to review. So instead of just one day, as Chris so eloquently outlined, we're going to provide almost a week or over a week. It does include that Labor Day holiday in there, so it's over that time period. So again, we want to acknowledge the fact that you have so many other responsibilities other than assessment accountability. Continuing with our tradition of accuracy and reporting, and allowing you to review this for systematic changes, and providing us that review and the opportunity for you to provide any discrepancies. So again, look for more information in emails. Unlike it has been in the past, we will not have a kickoff quality control day meeting. This is the kickoff to that. You'll have information in Monday emails, and then any special emails that we may need to create to provide you the tools in which you can provide this review. So Helen, let's move on to the next topic. And again, if you have questions, and I know that you do, please email those to dacinfo@education.ky.gov, and Pam will facilitate those questions more toward the end of the presentation. At our last DAC webcast, we talked about the social studies field test, and we kept saying it was tentative, and we made the determination to postpone that social studies field test because of the many districts that had previously decided to return to school with remote learning. At the time, the governor had not made his recommendation yet, and many districts had already decided to return to non-traditional instruction or remote learning for all or partial students, giving them the opportunity to choose between that. So the postponement was made for the consideration of our students and safety, as well as the challenge that was presented of having all of our student demographic groups represented in that field test. Now, this postponement, we are working currently with Pearson, our vendor and partner in the development of the social studies assessment, and we have several possibilities that we are pursuing. Some that would possibly need to talk with our legislators about. We definitely are looking toward our new commissioner. Dr. Glass is starting in mid-September. He had some commitments in his contract that is keeping him in his current position until September. So he is working along the way now when he can, when he is not have contractual days with his district, and is in part of the discussions. But we want him to be on board and present him the opportunity to have input on this decision about the options that we are working with Pearson. So again, we are working toward that. It's our commitment to create a assessment that is very valid, we can stand behind, that produces results that that are meaningful. So we are working with our vendor, and we'll let you know. You'll be the first to know when that social studies field test is scheduled, because we need you to be part of the administration of that. So looking forward to working through those plans. All right, Helen, I will turn back to you for discussion of the back to school trainings.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, and good morning, everyone. I hope that you all are staying safe and healthy during this time. As always, our goal here at the Kentucky Department of Education and OAA is to provide resources that we hope you will find beneficial. To that end, we've been working over the summer just in preparation to provide you with some resources for back to school. We know that this is a very difficult time, different time. But to that end, we do know that one way or the other, school will be going back, and we want you to be prepared and have the necessary tools for that end. So we have several trainings that we've worked on, and hopefully we'll be releasing those soon to you. So look forward to that coming out. Hopefully, our goal is to have those ready for release by Monday, August 17th. So we will be sending those out in a special DAC email with the links once they're ready. So look forward to seeing those. We have back to school trainings for access, alternate access, information about the ACT, the fall administration of the ACT, end of course, and kindergarten. So in access, you can look forward to information regarding the WIDA access placement test. We have reopening information, as well as information for the identified EL students. We know that this is a very difficult time, and as schools come back, there will be different looks at what school will look like as schools open. But we want to have information for you as to how do you prepare and what resources will be available to assist our students, especially our EL students. We have a lot of work has taken place over the summer with alternate access. We have information about our AAAF folders and the changes that are taking place in that. So this training will cover the changes that have taken place as a result of the AAAF. We'll have information about how we're moving the social studies administration from grade 12 now to grade 11, and how that now, why? Because we really wanted to align with the general studies field test. We also
Helen, we have lost your audio. I think that you are still in control of the slide. So let me just finish up here.
I've had a lot of that has taken on.
So let me finish up here with the back to school trainings. The back to school trainings, again, will be available for you in Monday's email. We will have an entry with those, and we'll have the access, the alternate assessment. We've had the ACT training, and therefore we have that. We're just going to release that link, and then we'll have information around the kindergarten screen. So again, those topics will be available for you as we move into the back to school trainings. And again, look for that entry in Monday's email. So at this point, I think that's the last topic that we had. So let me turn to Pam and see if there are any questions. And I bet there are.
You are correct, Jennifer. There are several questions that have come in today.
Okay.
So let's start with the ACT. Can you remind us of the fall ACT dates that are in place?
Yes. The fall ACT dates are September 22nd, August 6th, and a new one that we're working with ACT on October 20th. And each of those dates have an accommodation window that's attached to that. So those are going to be available. Now, note that the September 22nd, obviously, is within that time frame that the governor has recommended schools delay in-person instruction. And so we're looking to the Department of Public Health to provide guidance and directions on if schools can bring in a small number of students for that administration. So please look for that additional information that will be applicable moving forward.
Jennifer, I believe you meant to say October the 6th, not August the 6th.
Yes, I did, because that August 6th would have been last week.
I was going to say I missed that if we did. Okay, let's move on to case screens. Will the window of case screens still close on October 15th for state reporting?
The window will not close October 15th for state reporting. The Kentucky Board of Education heard the discussion and approved a waiver to expand the reporting window as well as the administration window. At this point, we do not have a closure date. We are being very flexible to allow schools to provide that screen and get that valuable instructional information that can be used instructionally for our teachers. So there is not a closure date at this point. We are awaiting the situation to unfold. It's not a situation that we would have imagined this time last year. And with that, we're waiting for the situation to evolve and until those closure decisions are made.
All right, let's move on to accountability. Will OAA be preparing an updated accountability PowerPoint training based on the changes with Senate Bill 158?
We will create additional trainings on accountability when there is more definitive information to share. At this point, the information that we shared with on a DAC webcast, and Pam, I'm trying to remember if that was either the June or July February the DAC webcast, that we had the in-depth overview of the Senate Bill 158 changes. So that is the PowerPoint presentation on the accountability system, because that includes how it impacts the accountability going forward. Now, until the Kentucky Board of Education weighs in on the indicators and has discussions about a regulation, additional information won't be put together into a accountability presentation until those discussions are held. What you do have, though, are other resources that include that comparison document that's linked to this presentation, and then you have the webcast PowerPoint from this summer.
Okay. We have a little confusion over the blueprints. Will there be a new science blueprint, or will we use the one that is published in the previous test blueprint?
So that's a good question. The statute says that standards are reviewed every 6 years. And when those standards are reviewed and revised, then new blueprints will be aligned to those new standards. So these reading, writing, math, and social studies standards were revised and approved in 2019. So based on those new standards, that's the reason we had the update of the blueprints for those standards. When science is on the rotation to be reviewed, when those standards are updated, we'll go through the process of updating the blueprints at that time. but the science blueprint that is in place right now is the one that will be in place until it's revised.
Okay. Now, for opportunity and access school safety survey,
Yes.
Will that 4% of accountability that students took be reported in the school report card?
The quality of school climate and safety survey will not be included in the school report card. The majority of students were able to take the quality of school climate and safety survey during that administration late February, early March. However, our alternate assessment students, they were planning to take their survey during the spring test administration window, which obviously got canceled. And so those students were unable to have that survey and take that survey. So without their important voices being part of the overall school and district and state, that information will not be made public. That was a long answer to say no, the Quality School Climate Safety Survey will not be in the school report card. You will have information on the school report card on access, because the approach that the Office of Assessment and Accountability took is that we will make public the assessment data where we had a full administration, and access was full, the kindergarten screen was full, and then we also have goals that we are working on.
Okay. We have another question about the CSIP and DSIP. CSIP and CDIP. I'll get this right eventually. How will the potential change in goals affect the CSIP and CDIP process for districts this fall?
It will not. So the development of goals will be for the future and for accountability. So the goals that we have currently in place will be in place for this fall. So we'll have to work with our Office of Continuous Improvement and in the development of those goals and when those goals would be put in place.
Okay, we have a question around early graduation and using the EOCs. Is there updated info on the early graduation and using EOCs? It's listed in the PowerPoint, but I didn't hear it mentioned.
Would you repeat that question again?
Is there updated information on early graduation and using EOC exams? It was listed in the PowerPoint, but they didn't hear it mentioned.
That was probably a result of the technical difficulties that we had. The EOCs are part of our back to school trainings, and it will be available for you on Monday. So yes, there is updated information on the end of course and our early graduate program. And Shara Savage is managing that process for us, and she has recorded her end of course training, and you'll have that information on Monday.
And another question, when will the administration code and inclusions training updated materials be ready?
They will be ready very soon. I'm so excited that the group that is working on that, and Pam is working very hard on those. We are very close. We're very close to that. They will be released this fall, and you can look forward to not only the full recording of the PowerPoint presentation, you can also look forward to many modules with associated checks of understanding. So we want that to be right. We want it to be good, and we're looking forward to sharing that. Also within the inclusions of special populations, there is a new section that is about tips for avoiding any type of violation of the administration code. So we've taken our experience from in the past where we see that there are violations that tend to come up the most often, and within that presentation there are some tips to avoid those allegations. So we're very excited about the training. We are looking forward to sharing it with you very soon.
And those are all the questions that we've received.
Well, wonderful. So as always, we want you to reach out if you have any questions for us. Reach out. We will provide you the most up-to-date information that we can. And we appreciate your time. We appreciate your attention. And we appreciate all the wonderful work that you are doing to keep our students, our staff, our district leaders, and our Commonwealth safe. We know that it is a difficult time for everyone, including and especially our school and district leaders. So we wish you nothing but the best as you return to school and make those terribly difficult decisions. If we can help you in any way, please reach out to us. We will see you back here in September, the second Thursday at 11 o'clock. Until then, take care. Thank you.